The pill organizer is one of those 7-day plastic ones, Sunday through Saturday. I used to manage the production schedules of 1,100 machine tool operators across 3 states. Now I manage a 7-compartment pill tray to make sure I take 5 milligrams of olanzapine before 11 p.m. Thursday's compartment is open. I've been standing at this desk for 20 minutes, looking at it, and I haven't taken the pill yet. It's 11:47 at night. The desk is a standing model, uplift, motorized, bought in 2016 when biohacking was still a word I used without irony. I still use it standing, not from discipline, from habit, the kind of habit that outlasts the person who built it. The HVAC hums. That's the only sound in the house right now. This house has 6 bedrooms and I use 2 of them. The other 4 are closed. I haven't opened those doors in a while. Not from avoidance exactly. It just seems like the kind of thing you do for rooms you're not ready to explain. My hands keep reorganizing the objects on the desk. I watch them do it. Pick up the glass of water, set it down at a slightly different angle, pick up the pen, rotate it, set it back, and I don't issue the instructions. They do this on their own, the way hands do when they were trained for years to manage something and there is no longer anything to manage. These hands typed "The Paradox of Peak Performance" into a Harvard Business Review draft in 2014. These hands gave 2 separate TEDx talks in Indianapolis. The first one, the 4 a.m. protocol, has 847,000 views. I know that number because I checked it this morning. I don't know why I checked it this morning. The company was called Renner Precision Group. I started it in 1993 with $47,000, 23 from my father, 24 from a man named Carl Bremer, who left the partnership in 2001. We made precision components for industrial automation and robotics. At the peak, 2016, we had revenues of $310 million and 1,400 employees in Indiana, Ohio, and Tennessee. I was named a finalist for Indiana CEO of the Year in 2014. I tell you this not because I want you to be impressed. I tell you because I want you to understand the specific species of person who built a dependency on cocaine. Not an addict who stumbled into a bad neighborhood. Not someone with a broken childhood reaching for an exit. Someone who believed that performance was a moral category, and that the discipline required to achieve it was its own form of virtue. The cocaine didn't feel like a weakness. That's the thing no one tells you. It felt like an extension of the virtue. March 2008, Chicago, National Association of Manufacturers Conference. Bar at the Sofitel on Michigan Avenue, 10:30 at night. I was 40 years old. I just lost 2 major contracts to Asian competitors in the same quarter. The financial crisis was building the way smoke builds in a corridor before you see the fire. You could feel the temperature changing, but the source was still invisible. A CEO from Phoenix came and found me at the bar, 62 years old but looked 45, bronzed, unusually animated for 10:30 p.m. The kind of energy I associated with people who were winning. "You look like you're carrying the whole quarter," he said. He wasn't wrong. We went to the bathroom on the 2nd floor. 2 lines on the back of the vanity counter. He said, "Just to get through the weekend." I felt the building come off my chest, entirely, as if someone had removed a structural load I'd stopped noticing because it had been there so long. I used maybe 8, maybe 10 times in the next 2 years. Conferences. The occasional Friday before a critical board presentation. Nothing that disrupted the schedule. Nothing I couldn't account for in a risk management framework. And I was, at that point, still thinking in risk management frameworks about all of it. What changed was 2010. A major OEM customer moved 15% of its component sourcing to a Taiwanese supplier, and I began waking at 3:45 a.m. with my chest running. I remembered what it felt like to not have that problem, and I knew exactly how to not have it. That's when the daily use started. The TEDx talk was April 2013. 400 people in the audience at the JW Marriott in downtown Indianapolis. The talk was called The 4 a.m. Protocol, 42 minutes. The thesis: exceptional leaders aren't exceptional because they work harder. They're exceptional because they operate in the hour when no one else does. The discipline of the silent hour. When the world sleeps, you build. I told them I had been waking at 4 a.m. for 3 years. That was true. I did not tell them that by April 2013, waking at 4 a.m. meant was still awake from the night before. I did not tell them that what they were observing in me, the energy, the precision of recall, the ability to hold multiple variables simultaneously in an argument, the particular brightness that reads as leadership on a stage, was the cocaine. Not the discipline, the cocaine. The distinction at the time felt technical. A candle and an industrial spotlight both illuminate a room. You can read by either one. What I did not fully process was that one of them uses kerosene that belongs to the structure of the building itself, and if you run it long enough, the difference between illuminating the room and consuming it becomes a matter of time rather than intention. The video is still up. 847,000 views. I cannot take it down. It belongs to the TEDx organization's archive, not to me. Every few months, someone comments and tags my name. This man changed my life. I've been doing the 4 a.m. protocol for 6 months. I don't respond to those comments. I know exactly what they're doing at 4 in the morning, and it isn't what I told them. The sleep went first. By 2011, I was sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night and calling it a competitive advantage. The Ativan I took after the cocaine to come down, I didn't count that. The extended recovery phase on Saturdays, 12 hours in a dark room, I classified as strategic rest. I had a taxonomy for all of it. Executives who managed the cognitive load I was managing required different biological parameters than other people. I wrote this in an HBR post in 2013. It has 1,042 comments. The judgment went next. In September 2015, I fired David Mercer. David had been my CFO for 11 years. He had built the financial infrastructure of Renner Precision Group from a 30-person operation through $300 million in revenue. The reason I fired him? A discrepancy of $3,200 in a quarterly expense report. It was a typographical error. An accounts payable clerk had transposed 2 digits in a vendor payment. This was confirmed within 48 hours by 2 separate audits. I had called David into my office on a Tuesday morning and accused him in front of the head of legal of misappropriating company funds. I had documentation. I had a presentation. I had spent the previous night building a 40-slide deck connecting unrelated variances in our financial reports into a pattern of systematic fraud. The pattern existed entirely inside my skull. The board sat in silence when I explained the decision. I took that silence for agreement. It was not agreement. It was several people recognizing simultaneously that something was wrong with me and not yet knowing what to do about it. David Mercer collected his personal effects on a Thursday, 11 years. He didn't say anything to me directly. He didn't need to. Rebecca moved to the guest room in 2015. She had noticed things I thought I was concealing. The accelerated speech, the inability to sit through a 40-minute dinner without standing twice, the calls from business trips at 11 p.m. to check something urgent that I forgot the content of before I finished the sentence. She never confronted me directly. Rebecca was always more precise than I was. She could identify a structural problem in 3 sentences that would take me a board presentation to recognize. In March 2017, she moved to her sister's house in Bloomington. I told the executive team she needed to help her sister recover from a minor surgery. The paranoia came gradually and then completely. It began as hypervigilance. By 2016, I was convinced the board was communicating around me. Not about business strategy, but about me specifically. I had cameras installed in the corridors of the Renner Precision facility in Carmel. security purposes. I hired a private investigator to follow 3 board members, a retired banker named Thomas Girard, a PE partner, and the outside counsel we'd used for 15 years. I found nothing. I had him continue for 6 weeks. In February of 2017, I swept the conference room for surveillance devices using a radio frequency detector I'd purchased online for $318. I found something. A small rectangular transmitter near the wireless presentation system. I called an emergency board meeting at 3 in the morning to reveal the discovery. It was the USB dongle for the wireless mouse. It had been plugged into the conference room computer since 2015. The board voted for an intervention in March 2017. By then, I had been in my office for 72 consecutive hours. I believed the building was under federal surveillance. I had pushed the desk against the interior wall to avoid line of sight from the windows. When Thomas Girard knocked and said my name from the hallway, I waited 12 minutes before I opened the door. Rebecca was there. Thomas had called her. She was standing slightly behind him, in the hallway of a company I had built from $47,000 and 11 years of before dawn hours. I didn't recognize her face, not a performance of non-recognition. I looked at her and my brain was processing what it was receiving, and for 4 seconds, I've thought about this many times, and 4 seconds is accurate, I could not place her. She said, "Doug, it's me." And I heard the sentence and I still needed another second. I think about those 4 seconds more than any business decision I've ever made. More than the contracts I won, the contracts I lost, the board votes, the Inc. magazine covers. 5 seconds of not recognizing the face of the woman I married in 1993. That's where it went. Not to a conference room, not to a revenue line. It went to a Tuesday night in a hallway when I couldn't find my wife's face in my own memory. I was removed from operations in April 2017. Voluntary rehabilitation. Timberline Knolls in Illinois, 45 days. The company was sold to Blackstone Industrial in June of 2018 for $183 million. The number should have been higher. The conditions of the sale were not optimal. 1,400 employees became 860. The company is now called RPG Industrial Solutions. I've been clean 7 years. The olanzapine manages the residual perceptual instability. Dr. Sarah Krishnamurthy at IU Health describes it as prophylactic maintenance for post-stimulant psychosis sequelae. I write this down when she says it because my working memory is not what it was. I used to track 15 variables simultaneously in a production scheduling problem. I lose the thread with more than 5 now. I start every day at 4:17 a.m., not by choice. The circadian rhythm was reset by years of cocaine and has not fully restored. I stay in bed for 40 minutes deliberately, not because I'm tired, but because getting up immediately at 4:17 feels like a concession to something I no longer want to concede to. Rebecca and I divorced in September 2018. We communicate with the careful precision of 2 countries that share a border and a difficult history. Tyler comes to Carmel once a month. He said to me once, looking at the office, the quadrant diagrams still on the whiteboard, the Inc. magazine cover turned toward the wall, "You still look like a CEO presiding over a meeting with yourself." He meant it as a diagnosis. He wasn't wrong. Brett calls every 3 months. The calls run 8 minutes. In the center drawer of this desk, there is a Parker Sonnet Bordeaux fountain pen. Rebecca gave it to me the month we opened the business, July 1993. The barrel is engraved, RPG, 07-1993. I have not used it since April 2017. I open the drawer sometimes and look at it. I don't take it out. I'm not sure what I'm waiting for. Maybe I'm not waiting for anything. Maybe it's just useful to have one object that marks the line between the person who built the company and whatever comes after. The pill organizer is still open. Thursday's compartment. The HVAC runs. The street outside is quiet. Somewhere in a server I cannot access, 847,000 people have watched a version of me explain that the discipline of 4 a.m. is what separates those who build from those who don't. I stopped on the thumbnail. Right hand on the trackpad. Didn't click.